Hello, listeners, and welcome to Beyond the Mirror. This isn't just another podcast, it's a deep dive into the world of beauty, wellness, and longevity. Now, we're here to discuss what beauty really means beyond just appearances. We'll also talk about wellness, the habits and practices that keep us healthy, full of energy, and we'll explore the topic of longevity, looking at the science and realities of living a long, fulfilling life. So sit back, relax, and join us as we go beyond the mirror.
Welcome, listeners. We are so excited to have you here today. We have a wonderful topic of yoga that we're going to be talking about. And I'm here with my dear friend, Katie Ruppert. Katie is a colleague of mine, and she has been practicing lifestyle changes in her own life and in her family's life for several years, which makes her such a wonderful person to look to for answers when it comes to health and wellness. And so we're so excited to have you here today, Katie. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So I want to first have the listeners kind of understand you and your path and your journey to where you currently are. Because you've done a lot of things, but I know there's been some health issues in the past with your family. And so trying to find answers to those things can sometimes be quite a bit of a windy road. And so tell us a little bit about how you got here into the space that you're at.
Well, I mean, it's been my whole life journey to get here. I feel like I can look back and see all of the steps come together. I guess if I can nutshell, right? I got married really pretty young, and with that, I think it took me a long time with having this marriage relationship to really find myself and my voice and who I am. And maybe it took me a little longer. Maybe everyone has that same journey, but I think that's kind of where it really started for me, navigating life as an adult and cooking food for myself, trying to do dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner all by myself now that I'm married. And, we were waited about 5 years to have kids. And after I had kids, I started, or when I got pregnant, actually, I started having these weird mystery things pop up like, oh, am I allergic to my baby? My neck is all red and hiving up. And then my son, my little guy, he had eczema for months and months and months. And I was like, what is it? Why can't I help him? And I started learning about dryer sheets. That might have been like the first thing that I learned about, as far as toxins and, this actually means something. I started reacting to scents and things like that myself. So an overload of toxins, essentially. And so I had to stop wearing perfume. Oh my gosh, the world is ending, right? And stop using dryer sheets. Well, what do I do? So that's I think that was the first real deep dive. And I mean, this was, he just turned 14. So I was very blind to health and wellness before then, generally speaking, other than I need to go on a diet and lose weight and all, the normal teenager stuff. And so that's the first thing I really started diving into, or had that moment of, there's more than just living your life and doing what everyone says is fine and so on. And skipping forward, I had my second kiddo, Emmeline. She is 11 now. And when she was born, I was very committed to nursing because I wanted to be healthier and this is the best for the baby. And I started just dabbling in health and wellness. That's when I started doing yoga as well, which is when I was pregnant. And I just found it very nourishing to my body. And after she was born, she was a colicky baby and vomited after she ate every single time. And no one pointed me in the direction of food allergies. I remember asking the pediatrician at the time, do you think she's allergic to something? She just isn't right. And she's like, well, some babies are colicky. And come to find out, when she was 4 or 5 years old, she had very sensitive to chlorine, which was too high in her home, and milk. And so we had to make some changes in our lifestyle, in our eating, just in our environment. And a steady theme for me was overcommitting and being too busy, extra stress. And then I did find a little bit of relief when it came to moving my body. And so when I was pregnant, I found like, oh, yoga makes me feel good. And I know I'm not going to hurt the baby. Very, like, I didn't know a lot of education about it. I think I do pregnancy better now, I would say. But moving my body, I knew made me feel mentally better, helped me work better. I felt better. And so I tried all kinds of things. But yoga kind of stuck with me. And gosh, those were some of the starting things. And I guess jumping forward, I really did a deep dive into food, allergies, toxins, not overloading your body, knowing that we're all bio individual and that we all have certain things that are really like maybe they're unique to us, but there are some common threads. And so it really feels like the last 14 years has been an investigation, a discovery, going from very, very blind to, oh, okay, it's starting to kind of come together. Everything's kind of pointing in the same direction. Like I got to take care and advocate for my own health and wellness. And by the way, if I could generalize, and I don't know if this is the story that you're wanting to hear, I can go into more detail, but I think overarching as I look back, I think stress was the number one thing for me. Getting overwhelmed as a new married person, getting overwhelmed as a new mom, getting overwhelmed starting a 9 to 5, never having done anything like that before, sitting at a desk when I'd never had been stuck in front of a desk before, stress, overwhelm. What am I supposed to do? And I did all of the research, all of the diets and eliminations and testing and all of these things. And what it seemed the common thread to me seem to really be stress is the root of what you've got to work on first. And then everything else, like you can do everything else perfectly, but if you can't manage your stress, your mind, and move your body generally, you are going to still struggle no matter how perfect you eat or sleep or anything. So that's kind of, I guess, a nutshell or a long nutshell for you.
Yeah. And I really do feel like a lot of people listening can relate to that at some point. You know, we've all felt that overwhelm. We've all felt that stress. In any newness we experience of anything, there's that anxious feel that you get. Am I doing it right? You know, what am I missing? You know, we've all been there, right? You've been there.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes we live there for a while.
Your story is actually similar to mine in the sense of like, well, I had health issues that I worked on before, but I had babies late. And maybe I was a little more aware because of that. But my son reacted to diapers.
Interesting.
Talk about a challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
I am somewhat of an environmental person, and conceptually the idea of a cloth diaper was like, oh, well, that's nice. It's good for the environment. And then I was like, but wait, where does the poop go?
Who's going to wash those, right?
How does that happen?
You hold the baby over the toilet every 2 hours.
I mean, seriously, I was so overwhelmed with having to fix that, but his rashes were
atrocious.
Horrific.
Oh.
They were horrific. And so we worked it out. We've and you know what? I ended up loving the cloth diaper. In fact, then I think the technology's gotten even better because my son's 18. So, I mean, that was a long time ago, and it was really good. The system was good. There was a system.
You had liners, right?
You throw the poop in the toilet.
Oh,
first thing.
Whoa, what a concept.
You know,
interesting.
And then you wash it and you actually dry it in the sunshine.
Oh,
which removes the stains and is a better form. And that was the beginning of me not using fabric softener because they were like, no, if he's having all this rash, you can't have the fabric softener and all that kind of stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you mentioned that you had been doing yoga even when you were pregnant. Had you done other exercises before? What made you so drawn to the yoga?
Yes, I've done all the exercises. Grew up with, I mean, you can only really describe it as an unhealthy relationship with food and diet. Just maybe a lot of people can relate to that. Poor self-image, eating disordered eating, if you will. And I had done every exercise. I was really into group fitness. I love group fitness. I was part of a gym for a time, and they offered a yoga class. I had experienced yoga with my mom in her bedroom with a VHS tape. Growing
Oh,
up,
wow.
we did the same yoga video over and over and over, and we also did Taibo and walk away the pounds and all kinds of fun tapes. Um, but uh, but I remember really loving yoga, and here's why I think I'm so drawn to it is I am a busy mind. I have the diagnosis of ADHD on a severe level, whatever the heck that spectrum is, and I there's something about it. I used to resist it when that time at the end of class came where you just rested. I would excuse myself to the restroom or like get out of there. But now I really look forward to it because it's this intentional time of letting me be a human being and not a human doing, and knowing that I can move and nourish my body with movement, but then have that time for rest. And it's just as important as moving and sweating and all of those things. So and now, like today, I teach and I practice in a warm and a hot studio, which I didn't think that I would enjoy because I've got a lot of hair. I was like, I don't want to wash my hair after yoga. That's like the exercise that I do when it's between washing days. But I have really come to find a beautiful marrying of like intensity, um, flexibility, challenge, and then also rest, breath work. Like it just includes everything that is so helpful for me, being part of that studio as well.
What have you noticed as far as like your ADHD? I know that I've heard a lot of people say like I had horrible anxiety and yoga totally changed that for me. And they know that when they do the yoga, it really does help relax them. How much of your busy mind gets relaxed with yoga, and what else have you noticed?
I think you just unboxed some worms. I'm going to have to just tell you that like the box is open, ready. Yoga is really about the mind more than it's about the body. It's first about the mind. There's 8 parts to yoga, and to today, what we've been talking about, what most people think about is one of the 8 parts of yoga, that is movement, or actually it's called posture, sitting comfortably. So we kind of added on, let's make it an exercise thing too. So but when it comes to yoga, I think the reason why it's been so monumental in my life is some of those other parts of it, like the pieces that are about your breath matching your movement. And there's like this meditative movement thing that happens that it messes with your nervous system. So as a busy mom, I have my own business. I'll overwork, or I was very much in a habit of overworking and being stressed out. I didn't even mention my husband in my story. I love my husband. We've been married for almost 19 years. He deals with a chronic illness, digestive disorder, and we've done so many things to try and help him. And he hasn't had a lot of relief. And so just the stress that happens with all of that, doing things like getting silent and learning how to not attached to thoughts. So one of the pieces of yoga is like observances that you take. All right. So one of them is called non-attachment. And I can have thoughts and they can exist, and that's okay. And also I don't have to attach to them or make them mean something. And I think some of the philosophical piece of that is healthy for everybody. It's the stuff you learn when you read self-help books, it's the stuff you learn when you go to the therapist. And it's the stuff you learn as you become wise and mature over years and years and years. And like, if you are open to growth, being a growth-minded person, you're going to learn all this stuff, but you don't necessarily have to wait. So that's what yoga kind of provides for me, is this safe space. I learned how to breathe and get from this sympathetic stress response and learn how to just transition and like dip my toe in the water of, hey, maybe I am safe to have all this stress going on in my life, but also take time for me and take a few breaths and just release some of that from my body. Did I answer your question, ladies?
You did. You did. Yes, very well. Thank you. You have anything you want to ask?
Well, I just want to say, as someone who surrounds herself with people with ADHD, whatever you're doing, you don't come off that way.
Mm-mm.
And that's interesting enough to me because, like, I love people with ADHD. I just pluck them into my universe because my brain is quite rapid thinking. And I'm like, oh, I can keep up with them and they keep up with me. And like, it works really good. But then it is stressful. It is a stressful way to exist. I wouldn't say I have it myself, but like I said, I attract it, to me. And but it's not obvious in your behavior and personality and speech and stuff like that. And so whatever you're doing is being beneficial to
Testament
you.
to the yoga is working. Well, you're doing a lot of things too. So
I think a lot of personal work. One of the biggest things with ADHD is not attaching to it as my identity. And that has been quite a journey as well. And going through 500 hours of yoga training, like, we got a lot of time to get real philosophical and dive deep. We learned about things like, what's your body type and how do you eat for your body type? How do you move for your body type? Even in yoga, like, if I'm feeling heavy and blah, like, I need to be lifted. I need to breathe a little faster. I need to take my arms up over my head. And if I'm feeling really scattered and I can't get a thought to make any sense, then I need to like forward fold and put my face towards my feet and just ground into the earth, maybe lay on my stomach. Like, there are some nuanced things that you can do and ways to move your body to really self-medicate or cope with anything that you encounter that's not perfection, not just ADHD, right? So there's a lot of tools that come with practicing yoga, and you're going to get them whether you'd go to a class. If you're open to it, you're going to get them in a class just because you're there. But studying it is great too. And I have a whole stack of books I'm happy to share with people if you're interested.
I love that. One of the things that I've noticed I do tons of different seminars with different doctors, and Dr. Sarah Godfrey, she is such a huge proponent of utilizing yoga for hormone health. Can you share a little bit about how you've seen different benefits of hormones with yoga?
So I don't have like that scientific background on that, but speaking from me personally, I have done probably 5 naturopathic protocols on hormones. I know what my issue is, and I deal with that estrogen dominance, where it's too much, so I get these PMS symptoms. So I think awareness, like self-awareness, goes a long way. Starting to know your cycles and knowing what you need. So one little piece of this for sure is like, if it's my first day of menstruation, I'm not going to do a hot, intense class. I'm not going to go for a run. Like, working with the energy of your body and learning to tune into your body. That's something that a yoga class can teach you. So like my students, for example, this morning I taught a level 10 class. All right. So like, if you come to this class, you're going to sweat, you're going to feel sore tomorrow. It's it's an intense class. But I always say, like, hey, if your body isn't here for it today, I would rather see you like take a nap during class and just be here than try to push yourself past. So I think that's a piece of it. And then the other thing is, like with cortisol and like that stress response always being on, if you can learn how to have that stress response, but also have tools in your belt for like coming over to the other side of it, it's still existing, but I'm going to just release. I'm going to relax. I'm going to find a way to take a moment for myself. It's a practice that you can have you can feel empowered to start regulating, I guess, your hormones, right? Like, again, I don't know the science behind it, but I know like when cortisol spikes, that's going to mess everything up. But if you can learn to really calm and nourish and soothe yourself with some of that breath work and slow movement and knowing when too far has been happening and take it a step back. And then working with your cycles, like listening, non-violence is another one of those concepts. And that can be something as simple as making sure you don't not sleep. I don't know. I mean, I'm not, the words aren't coming, but like it could be violence to my body for me to stay up late when I know my body needs more rest right now while it's healing and the hormones. So
it's actually the same when you're thinking. So exercise raises cortisol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It just does. You're actually intentionally causing stress to the body.
Mm-hmm.
So the beauty of yoga then is you're also counterbalancing that stress with breath work, relaxation, mental health work, those kinds of things, where other forms of workout, you're just getting the cortisol hit.
Yeah.
And you're not getting the come down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's that's the thing, right? You have to be able to come. It's how fast can you come down?
Mm-hmm.
If you are almost in a car accident, like, do you take that adrenaline with you for hours, or can you be like, oh, cool, wasn't an accident. I'm better. I'm back to neutral.
Yeah.
And the faster you can get to that place, the better. And it takes practice. You don't just naturally do that.
Right.
You can get stuck.
Yeah. And I think you touched on, knowing your body, which I really believe is huge, and listening to our bodies. And I think we're in an era of where we've stepped out of our bodies so tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got to like figure things out and get back in and like, what am I feeling? How can I process this?
Yes.
And then that mental meditation of how yoga actually makes you slow down your thinking and think through the process. What am I actually feeling? We also are cyclic human beings too. And so as women, we cycle tremendously in so many different ways. And so when you're saying know your body and listen to it, and maybe you just need a day of rest in the heat or, whatever. I think that's huge too. Even in some of the other doctors I've studied with as well, even when we intermittent fast, it should be done in cycles.
Yeah, because that's raises your cortisol.
It does. It does. And also there's studies that show that if you're not eating enough carbs at certain times of the day, which, we like to keto, but this is why we cycle keto and we don't just stay on keto forever, is you then don't make certain hormones, or your body won't actually utilize certain hormones. And that's progesterone and testosterone. And you need those. And so I really do feel like listening to your body is huge. Adding the doctor that I follow, when she said adding the yoga, because of the breath work and because of the slowing of the mind and because of the stretching, it was like you rang out the muscles. It's like you calmed your brain, you de-stressed. It was so beneficial for female hormones that it's just amazing at how beneficial and what we would see.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, a nice twist or a side body opener would totally support your hormonal cycle, 100%.
Yeah. And then you're supporting those muscles. Like we just learned a whole bunch about the pelvic floor and how those muscles, right at
they hold everything together.
They're holding everything together. So if you do have pain and inflammation in the pelvic area region, it's, painful sex, intercourse, whatever, the yoga is going to help with that too, which is awesome. Have you noticed that you've become more flexible utilizing yoga on a regular basis? And you've been doing it for a very long time.
Yeah. The thing that I say I'm a yoga instructor, and the first thing that I couldn't do that, I'm not flexible. And I'm like, that is why you do the yoga, is to become flexible, to be able to move in safe ways. It's such like a hot button. I'm like, then come to yoga. But for me, yes, I am more flexible in areas that I was really tight. So what's interesting about my story, and I know that a lot of people with ADHD, autism, and neurotypical, they typically several can relate in being hypermobile. I've always been very super bendy and flexible. And when I started my yoga teacher training, even though I'd been doing yoga for 15 years or more, I realized some of the pain that was associated with my yoga practice had to do with me overstretching. So not bending the knee because I didn't have to touch the ground. Or like when I do, like we have a reverse push-up thing, I teach a vinyasa flow yoga. So when I did that, I'd like overextend my wrists, and I always had wrist pain. So I just skipped that part. But learning to listen to my body and learning to like the reason I'm hypermobile in one place means I've got super tight on the opposite side. So learning to balance that out and then build muscle where is needed to support that hypermobility has been really important too. And I don't know what percentage of population has that same thing, but I just thought I'd go ahead and mention it in case that's something that you struggle with, because it could be either side. Like I'm too tight to do anything, or I'm too flexible to be safe.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the other end. And I've done yoga forever. And my flexibility never increases. It makes me crazy. I'm like, why? Why is that?
That's interesting.
But I also wonder, like, I build muscle very easily.
I do too.
And muscle is condensed and tighter. And so sometimes I wonder if that genetic predisposition to building muscle quite easily is just condensing things for me.
That is a thing. When we were learning about just what you're talking about, we'd call it, some people have Viking muscles and some people have ballerina muscles.
Yeah.
And neither one is good or bad. It's like, that's when you get into the nuance of, okay, I've been practicing, I feel safe. Now, like, what does it look like for me to find some extra credit stretching in a different area? That's what I always call it. Like, how can I change this pose? It doesn't have to look like everyone else's, but to really serve my body. And I don't think I've mentioned Ayurveda yet, but that is the sister of yoga. So yoga is all about the mind, and Ayurveda is all about the body and your body constitution, your type, your exercise, your sleep, your metabolism types. And we aren't all created equal, right? That's why calories in, calories out doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So, or it never worked. But now we're starting to understand that it's not, that's not what it's about, but that bio-individuality is really important.
Yeah. So for someone who has like maybe never experienced yoga, is brand new, and they think, oh, I'm not flexible enough to bend over, that is a big fat lie, right? There's ways that they can start off very, very simple for them, right? Correct?
I actually embrace my now ability not to do all the things.
Okay, wait. So what do you mean?
So you're yoga.
I'm in the yoga class going, it's okay.
Yes.
I have to bend my knees a whole bunch to touch the floor. Yeah. It's okay.
That is true yoga. Like, you're getting to that place where you're actually practicing. It's not about, oh, I can touch my toes. Speaking to your point, Dina, about people that just are really nervous, I think it's very common to be nervous and scared of yoga because in the West, online, just like we did in the teeny bopper magazines in the 90s, like, you gotta be 100 pounds to be pretty. It's the same kind of thing with yoga. Like, we're going through this transformation right now. I feel like it's getting better, but you think of yoga, you have like, close your eyes. What are you picturing? It's like someone upside down or a beautiful person with perfect body. And they're like, their leg is over their head or something. That is not what we're going for.
Contortionism.
What
If you
is
want
yoga?
yoga for flexibility or for movement, for the ability to continue taking your going to the bathroom on your own self-sufficiently throughout, like till you're in your 90s and to 100 years old or whatever, yoga can help you with that. But you gotta let go of it needs to be, there's not a right way to do it. A great starting point, I mean, truly, you can do so much from, like, while you're lying in your bed, you can do a child's pose or bring your feet and knees into your chest and start observing how your body feels. Notice where you feel tight. I do some like mini movement things with my social media people, like, hey guys, this is yoga too. Take a deep breath, exhale. You did it.
You won. Yeah.
Well, I
YouTube
just wanted
has
to
a lot of
say one of the things of all the exercise that I do have done, yoga seems to have the greatest acceptance of all body types, in my opinion.
Yes.
So for
It's
anybody,
forgiving.
anybody getting started, flexibility is not about what size you are
No.
at all. And the beauty of yoga is there's a lot of body acceptance. You don't have to be some perfect specimen to go into a yoga. In fact, these days when I go, there's all kinds of, it's beautiful. There's like,
It's diverse.
it's all types of bodies. And there's really no, in my opinion, visible hurdle for someone to say, I just don't look the part, so I can't do it.
And I don't think it's wrong to be nervous when you go into a class, not knowing what to expect. I feel like that's going to happen. If you're like, I know I want to do yoga, but whatever, grab a friend and be like, let's just try to be lighthearted about this and try it. If you really want to go or need to go to an external class. I mean, I teach in a studio, so of course I want you to come to a class, but you really can get some of those foundational things online. I mean, I'm happy to connect with people and just share some basic stuff,
Yeah, because I think the scary part about taking yoga versus lifting weights or something like that is that there's all this verbiage that goes with right?
It's like a whole language.
What?
Yeah.
You're telling me to do what? And I'm looking.
Namaste.
How am I doing this? Downward facing dog? What? No, like it is like you are learning a language as part of it, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. But
that's a good point.
Just know that you got to start somewhere, and so that's why you go to a beginner's class, and just know that you're not going to know it's going to take you a while to learn the pose. It is a practice, like you said.
And here's the thing, like, you can really feel safe if someone is a certified yoga instructor. They are gonna be the last person to judge you or to think you're doing it wrong. They really can hold space. Like yoga teachers, generally speaking, now I don't know, haven't met a one that I would be scared of yet, but just like they can hold the space for you. They're a really good person to know because they've done all the practice to get to this point. And so we know that it's more than movement. We know it's not just exercise. And then the other thing I wanted to add in is there's community in community yoga, right? So maybe you go to a studio and you feel uncomfortable and you know that's not for you, but there's more options. You may want to check out, like, I know some doctors' offices offer it. Sometimes there's community classes inside of a gym, and then there's yoga studios on their own. They're all going to do different flavors, so try them all. Try some Yoga with Adrienne online. She's notorious for having that free stuff that you can just do and kind of practice in your own home. But just don't judge your first class as this is yoga, because there's all kinds. And yin, restorative yoga, those two are great ones for starters. Or if you feel like you have a hard time getting up and off the floor, chair yoga is another great one. But just kind of look around. There's lots of options. It doesn't have to be like a hot studio with vinyasa level 10 classes. Like that's not for everyone. I know that.
Well, I mean, you don't go to the gym and lift 500 pounds the first time
Right.
you go. Yeah. Like it's the same
concept.
It's the same concept. It just seems a little more intimidating. You know, it's like, oh, well, I can go to the gym and I know I can lift a 10-pound weight and I can start with that. But you aren't going to go into the gym and lift a 500-pound weight, AKA do a level 10 class, you know,
Not your first time.
It's the same. It's all the same.
It is.
It's all
relevant.
It's all training your body. So.
Yeah. And I really do feel like yoga is a great way to keep longevity. Like, are you doing this to make sure that your muscles stay mobile into your hundreds?
I can very distinctly remember, and I may have told you this story, but I was watching a TV show and it was this 101-year-old lady. It was like America's Got Talent or something. And she did a plank. And I was like, that's what I want for my life. I want to be able to move my body, go to the bathroom on my own, live independently as long as I possibly can. That really, really gets me going. And I see people start to curl up and not be able to take care of themselves earlier and earlier. And you and I both know that you can meet two 75-year-old people and one needs a lot of support and the other can pretty much, you would never know how old they were. But yes, that really drives me. And yoga it can be gentle and take you. I could do yoga the day that I die of old age. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw, did you see the woman that held the plank for
the
4
plank
hours?
Record?
4 hours and 36 minutes or something like that. Can you imagine?
I was like,
that's dedication.
ouch.
I was like, how did she do that?
I know.
But that is incredible.
Yeah. She wasn't a young person either.
No.
I'd say
she's about 40s.
Yeah.
Late 40s. Yeah. It's very, very interesting. And so it's a great way to keep mobile and get that longevity.
Yeah, flexibility equals longevity.
And I was just on a podcast the other day listening to a doctor talk about how as we age, when our lifespan becomes shorter, when our muscles start to break down. And it's not because they're broken down, it's because we're more at risk for falling. And when we fall, we break a hip and we end up in the hospital and we get surgery, and then it's downhill from there. We don't clear the anesthesia very well in our elder years, and it sometimes can linger. And then also the recovery, you don't recover as fast either. So people who fall and break a hip are 40% more likely to die within the next 15 years of their, and so staying mobile and keeping that muscle tone good is one of the things that helps catapult us into those longevity promoting type things, which is so cool.
And if you don't stop moving, you're going to be so much better off. There's nowhere that it says in any guidebook that when you get older, you got to slow down and stop moving and stop lifting or stop whatever. If you keep going, it always keeps going with you. Like there's not
I saw that in that they did that. It was a docuseries about people that lived to over 100 in the different cities.
Squatting.
And they had
something to eat.
They had some line in there is like something along the lines of, you don't get old because you stop moving. It's because you stop moving that you get old.
Yeah.
Amen. Well said. Y'all, you just got to keep moving and move in different ways. Like our culture really is a forward culture. We don't hang, we don't pull, we don't open our chest. All of our old people are getting that. I can't remember that it's a K word, but it's like this.
Kyphosis.
Yeah, kyphosis. And you don't have to, that doesn't have to be true. It's not even, I don't even think that's a genes thing. You just stop moving and that happens. So I'm very passionate about this. Let's keep moving, people.
Yes. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and work with you, what is a good way for them to reach out to you?
Gosh, I mean, I can pretty much be reached anyway. Right now, my socials are at Katie Pampered Chef Lady, and it's all one word, or on Instagram, Katie Ruppert with 2 P's. I would love to connect. I do most of my social media because of my age. I'm a Facebook person. I wish it wasn't true, but I have a lot of fun connections and I just enjoy talking with people, have little community groups there, both for my yoga and other businesses. So, um,
And
Katie Ruppert would be a great one
And what
to
studio are you working out of? You teaching out of,
Yeah,
right?
so I teach at the Detox Yoga Studios in Winsville and Wing Haven in Missouri. And I do a little bit of online for my Facebook community there as well. Some of that is still free. But if you want to do some yoga online, beginners, like 3-4 week series, I would love to connect with you for that on Facebook is where I offer that.
awesome. Great. Love it.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, it has been wonderful to talk with you, Katie. We so appreciate your time and having you here with us and our listeners. Listeners, if you would do us a big favor and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done that, and please give us a share or review if you haven't done that yet either. We so need you to help us grow this podcast and have on amazing speakers like Katie. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you. It was so fun.
We want to make a quick but important disclosure. The information and advice shared in this podcast are intended to provide general knowledge and understanding about wellness and health-related subjects. They are not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new health regimen. Remember, your health is your responsibility, and it's always best to consult with a healthcare professional.